Hey, Jen, Van Cup Charlie's counselor. I'm super confused. I just got word that he's not enrolled here, and they're telling me he was dropped in March and never re-enrolled.
We live in a time unlike any other in human history, and I am determined to take advantage of 100% of it. But sometimes that means taking pretty large risks, and this was one of them. Was that too vague? Allow me to explain. With a 4.3 GPA and one semester left, I dropped out of high school. I left the country I've lived in for 18 years and bought a ticket to Italy.
The Office.
It smells so good.
Maker number 2.
Before I get carried away, let me explain that this video is the culmination of 2 years of my life. The worst, and because of that, the best. This flight was the turning point between the two, yet at the time I had no idea. I want this episode to be a tribute to the field of philosophy on action and risk. I'll show you how it led to the biggest decision of my life and forever changed my state of mind.
It's just my wild side. It's just the state of mind. It's just my wild side.
Welcome to Italy. It feels so damn good to finally say that. I have so much to talk about in the last 4 months, but first I want to explain everything that led to this decision. And unfortunately, the story begins here. COVID in 2020. This was the only point in my life that I truly hated. I spent every day in front of my desk or in this warehouse for over a year. I was either teaching myself CGI or working on this giant project called Recycled Living. All day was spent in my head and it was making me go insane. I could either change how I was living or simply create an escape. Enter Turin. For 2 years of my life, all I thought about was dropping out and moving there. I had literally a dream where I finally, after all this time, boarded the flight, where I flipped off the teacher and dropped out, and after all this time, pursued a life not in front of my desk. Turin became a goal larger than everything else in life. It was an obsession. My senior year of high school began in person now, and on the first day, I told my friend I was gonna drop out and move to Turin. He said, "That's the stupidest idea I've ever heard." There was, however, one person giving me the courage I needed. My favorite philosopher of all time, Camus. He wrote a book called The Myth of Sisyphus, and it changed my life more literally than anything else had since. Let me explain his philosophy. Imagine that you view the world with raw fascination. None of it makes sense to you. You have this feeling of wonder and curiosity because of how little can be explained. It's simply absurd. You sit with this dire eagerness to discover as much as you can about our world. But when you talk with people, you see this notion that they don't view the world like this at all. Most of life to them is understood because of a tool belt of generalizations they use to humanize existence and steal the inherent wonder. The disparity between this one-way street of checkpoints and street signs that they believe we live in, and this absurd, expansive sandbox that you believe we live in, makes you want to rebel, to prove to yourself that meaningless, exciting reality actually exists. Life isn't so boring and definable all of a sudden. The point is, we assert our own rules in life and then pretend to have them understood. But when grounded on nothing, you see that there are no fundamental rules to follow. You view the actions within your life more like a story where uncertainty and risk need to be included, and less like a series of events that need to be comprehended. When this understanding emerged for me, I did two things. I stopped going to school, and I finally bought my ticket to Turin. Every story has its moments of struggle. I realized as I was packing for Italy that I had no passport. I had just 10 days now to figure out how to get a passport that normally would take 3 months. So I actually did it. I officially bought the ticket to Italy. And I also have rent for 3 months of apartments in Italy. When I woke up today, I checked my ticket and realized I purchased a non-refundable ticket. If I can't get a completely new passport in 10 days, then all of this was completely pointless. So yeah, I did it all. I saved up a ton of money for months. I bought everything and then realized I literally didn't have a passport. The ticket alone cost over $1,000, and now I didn't even know if I could board the flight. This at the time was a really big problem that made me so stressed, and it's a super long story that involved going to Seattle, having the tires explode in the car, getting rejected by the passport agency up there, flying to LA, literally flying to LA, waiting in line all day, and eventually getting my passport mailed to me the day before I left to Seattle to fly to Italy. Okay, here it is. Oh my God, this is it. This is it.
You done it?
Oh, fuck yeah, let's go.
Dude, the passport came early.
Oh, that's awesome.
Let's go.
Yeah, the passport actually came. The time had come. I was moving to Italy. I'd thrown away a high school diploma, left a world of extreme comfort, and was now following a plan I made when I mentally was at my lowest point. It felt like the beginning of my life. Joseph Campbell would probably call it a second birth. I found excitement in taking action. I'm not in front of my desk anymore. And for the first time, I realized what it feels like to have this sandbox view of the world again. I wanted to be up here, in the clouds, looking down on my life like the films I was creating. After I began viewing my life where I was in control of the storyline, why would I want to live anything but the most exciting story possible? This was the risk I wanted in my life. As Camus might say, it was the rebellion that made me aware of my own story. I believed I finally stopped studying philosophy to go and experience it for myself. Like any good story, this is where it starts. An action, a risk, a gravitation towards the uncertain. I still don't know exactly where I'm headed, but these are the personal exigencies I learned to live by. Camus taught me that when between 2 points, you simply don't exist. Teetering on the crest of a cliff is being nowhere at all. Which is why, in the shortest sentence of the myth of Sisyphus, Camus wrote, "He is asked to leap."
Back up.